Hello everybody. This is a quick video about how to calculate one variable statistics on your TI-84 plus CE calculator. So, previously we have discussed how to sort a list of data from least to greatest and just have the calculator do that for us. Today we are going to dive in a little more to calculating the mean, calculating median, quartiles, we've got standard deviation, all that kind of stuff. So we are going to need to go back to that stat key. Remember, that is to the left of the left arrow, and then hit enter on edit. Now you may have some old data in here, so it might be the best to go to the top of L1 by pressing the up arrow so that it is highlighted in black. Press the clear key, top right, and then press enter to clear the list. Once that is cleared, we are going to enter the data that we need to calculate the one variable statistics for. So I'm going to enter my data. This is just data about all games, or all seasons in which Adam Wainwright pitched at least 3 games. This is the strikeout count for those seasons. So he struck 72 people out in one season, 136 in another, and so on. All right, that would be 17 data points. As always, I recommend a data entry method where you first put all your data in and then you cross-reference with your source. So I'm looking at a worksheet right now. I'm just going to make sure that each data point I plugged into my calculator is the same data point that was on the worksheet. So 55, 143, 174. All right, I entered all of my data correctly, so that's good. One thing I did want to cover, let's say accidentally you highlighted L1 and you pressed the delete key instead of the clear key. And now you're freaking out because it's the middle of your test. L1 is gone. What do you do? So to do that, to fix that, press the stat key. And then you're going to want to highlight number 5, set up editor, and then just hit enter. And that will bring back your L1. And in fact, L1 never got wiped, so all your data is still going to be in there. To calculate our one variable statistics, you are going to go back to the stat key. And then if you look at the top of the screen, we've got words like edit, calc, and tests. I want you to think of these as you would think of like tabs in a web browser. So right now we're on the edit tab, but if you press the right arrow key, you will go to the calc tab. That stands for calculate in this case. What's nice is our one variable statistics. Those are just automatically highlighted for us at the top of the list. So once you have pressed the right arrow key to get to the calc screen, you're just going to press enter to enter one variable stats. This screen is pretty straightforward. Your list is just the list in which you put data. So for our intents and purposes here, that is just going to be L1. Maybe you had another list going somewhere else, so maybe you want to calculate the average of L3. You could enter any list you want to into this box by typing the blue second key and then the number of the list you're working with. We entered into L1, so I'm going to leave that as L1. Now your frequency list, maybe you have a very, very large data set where you have like 20 entries that were just the number 1, and you had 30 entries that were just the number 2. The frequency list would be let's go back to your list. You make another list showing, okay, I had 30 72s and I had 20 136s. That's a little different than what we're doing because each data point we entered in the list, it's just that data point. This isn't a frequency chart or anything like that. So we're going to leave that blank. Some calculators, you might have to put the frequency list at 1, but I believe in the plus CE, you can just leave it blank. If I go ahead and run those, we get a complicated looking screen. Here at the top, we pronounce this as X bar. That is our sample mean. And in this case, it is 129.5294. In my class, students round to 4 decimal places. So they would need to round and cut it off at that 4. The next symbol, this is the sigma, capital sigma symbol. This stands for the sum. So it's saying, what is the sum of all of the x's? In this case, x is just any value placed in L1. In this case, all the sums of all the x values is 2202. That would be all of the strikeouts in all of the seasons where Adam Wainwright pitched at least 3 games. This one is similar. Instead of the sum of all the x values, this is the sum of all the x values if you square them first. This is involved in calculating the standard deviation, but the calculator does that anyway in the next 2 boxes. SX stands for our sample standard deviation. So the sample standard deviation in this case is 65.2496. Remember, the difference with the sample standard deviation is we divide by n-1, whereas with the population standard deviation, we just divide by n. Population standard deviation is here. That's denoted by sigma of x. That's a lowercase sigma. And in this case, it's a little bit smaller because, again, we're dividing by a larger number than the sample. So sample standard deviation, we divide by a smaller number. Dividing by a smaller number gives us a larger number at the end, a larger calculation, and we have a smaller one for the population. N is the sample size. That's just the length of the list that we input, and that was 17. The minimum value in our L1 was 20, and the Q1, that stands for the first quartile, that was 63.5. Now, you might be on a test and you're like, ooh, I need the median, and the median's not on here. Well, don't freak out. This list is bigger than the screen, so you just need to press the down arrow a couple times to get everything in view here. We already talked about Q1. The next one is the median, MED. This is the middle number, and in this case, the middle number is 143. The third quartile is 181.5, and then the max value in L1 right now, 219. So the season where Adam Wainwright struck out the most players or had the most strikeouts was a season where he got 219 strikeouts. All right, that is all I've got about the one variable stats screen. To get out of there, you can just press the clear key or press quit. I suppose I do have one final note is sometimes you need to calculate the variance of something. And so let's say you needed the sample variance of a data set. You would take this number, Sx, and you would square it. The problem is you probably need to round that sample variance to the same number of decimals as you would the standard deviation. So if I took 65.2496 and squared it, I get this number, which looks pretty good, 0.5103. But the problem is that is probably not the exact sample variance. So if you want to use a shortcut in your calculator to find the exact sample variance, you need to press this vars key. So the vars is under the down arrow. And we are going to be on this vars window, and we are looking for number 5, statistics. This is where all of the variables from your most recent one variable stats screen are saved. So you'll have most of your basic statistics on this XY screen. If you ever need the sum of x or x squared, there's other stuff that has to do with 2-variable regression and stuff like that. So I'm going to select Sx because I want the sample variance. So if I press enter and then enter again, this is the standard deviation from that one variable stat screen. If I do this and then square it, I will get my sample variance. 4,257.5147 is slightly different than this number. So you always want to use as many decimal places as you can when you calculate the sample variance or the population variance. We can do that as well by selecting sigma x instead and doing the same thing. All right, that is all I have for you. Thank you for watching, and I hope this helps. See you next time.